Kendra's checking again. Um, yeah, Kendra said she looked outside and Darcy had Wade on her bike without the training wheels on it, pushing him and getting him going.
Both my oldest daughter and my son, they literally 2 years apart, they learned how to ride their bikes without training wheels the same day. Like literally, like almost at the same time, they just took off going different directions. I was like, holy moly.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Mm-hmm.
Kendra walked down the road to the kennel, letting them ride their bikes and come show me. And there's this little dip in the road between the house and the kennel. There we go.
Woo! Is it great?
Jake's fault again. It's all Jake's fault again.
Man, we've been on here for 20 minutes. We were early today.
Yeah, we came on dead on time and thought we were with everybody. And Jake and I got tired of looking at each other and decided to reboot this thing. And
my son got him a mohawk.
Hush.
Come here. I think it's just gel in his hair. Well, now there's 2 people, so we're doing twice as good as we were 5 minutes ago.
No doubt.
Grace, was there a problem? Were you waiting? Can you please respond with a message? What was going on? Because it showed that we were live. Jeff Henderson's here. It showed that we were live.
But we was all alone.
But there's 8 people now. Now we're rolling. Now they're rolling in here like a Trump rally. Well. Or a Biden rally.
You're good, go. All right, we ready to get this thing on the road?
Yeah, let's roll it out.
Yes, we were patting ourselves on the head, on the back, and saying how good we had done, and we were on time, and then nobody was there. All right, been waiting since. Yeah.
Sorry about that. Since I just showed a pic. Yeah, we were live we were actually ready at 10 till, and then we went live, and we were like, man, they don't know, our friends aren't going to know what to do because we're rolling this thing out without any technical issues. We know we had technical issues. So, marking part 3 is our video of the week, and to a different location. I'm just going to spell this out so everybody knows what I did. So, went to Lake McConaughey or Prairie Rock Outfitters and went out to actually one of the creeks that feeds Lake McConaughey. And then we went back to Lake Prairie Rock, went into our sloughs. And I'll be honest with you, I couldn't find any deep water except for the big lake. So I decided to set some marks up in and they're really skinny right now because there's grass and weeds and there's irrigation still going, so they're still using water, so it's really shallow water. But we're running out of time, so we just did what we thought was best, and I made a bunch of mistakes, so I figured we'd be good to go.
Amen. So the objective tonight is we're going to look through this video. I'm going to analyze a little bit of Tanner's behavior, a little bit of what was right and what was wrong. And I'm also going to go through a diagram of what I want Jake to do since he's back home and kind of start working on, again, this is stuff that Tanner knows. He may not have been held accountable to as much. So this is Jake catching up to Tanner's understanding, and going through this drill-like scenario helps us really get a systematic approach and understanding to what we're looking for in good work and how that translates to the field and to a dog making good decisions. So I'm good to go, Jake, if you want to go ahead and roll that video, because I really like, I'll give you a hint, I really like what Tanner did on the very first mark.
Great. Well, let's roll Tanner out.
Again, we didn't have any, this was all running water. So there are some decisions to make here. but it is not quite the same as swimming water.
Can I ask you? I want to ask you a question before we roll this out, because
I was setting you up for it. Go ahead.
So this is. Can you see my cursor? Wait. Can you see my cursor now?
Yes, it's really small.
Okay, I don't.
Yeah, I do see it.
Okay, so this feeder creek is literally quicksand. I mean, it's waist deep quicksand, and it does have a little current in it because it's feeding the lake. Super shallow. And
Can I say something?
no, we're in the middle of it. And then I was a little concerned about him blowing through there wide open. You know, his Achilles tendon, I mean, it's not his Achilles, his ACLs, or just his legs in general and his momentum going through all that thick mud. He seemed to be doing okay. But, you know, really my question would be, I mean, well, I guess he can't swim. I don't know what my question is. I was just thinking there's a difference between obviously swim water and shallow water. And, you know, how would you critique the difference between what I did and what I probably should have done in water deep enough for him to swim in?
Well, water is a factor. Even if it's not swimming water, they will want to avoid it naturally. But that being said, once they're in it, it presents its own different dynamics. So if you're running, for instance, if you're running a blind in water that's shallow enough they can touch the bottom, it's a lot harder for them to hear the whistle because of the churning water around them. That can, and it also, that type of scenario fatigues a dog quicker than swimming. It's a lot harder for them to get through that medium. So, sticky mud, really, really soft bottoms. It didn't look like he struggled at all compared to what I call bad mud, but you can jeopardize or it can be a potentially dangerous situation if there's super thick mud. You know, we hunt in it all the time, but that is something that you can bear in mind and on training on a regular basis is that, you know, that really, really soft bottom where they sink way down in there and they have to pull their legs out. That can be a lot more dangerous. I did not see that here, you know, the way that I watched him go through the water. It didn't seem like that was the issue. So I don't think you were in any kind of imminent danger. The worst danger you had in this whole setup was, you know, a dry stob or something. It looks like there's a bunch of deadfall in there that he could have hit himself on. But
definitely. Okay, let me play this video. Ready?
Mm-hmm. All right, pause right there. The only thing in the work that he did here, I was really happy with everything he did. The only thing that you really see that he avoided, that you could call avoidance here, when you look at your X and look right to the near bank, there looks like a little puddle before the river, before the little creek. It looks like there's a puddle there, and he avoids that. You got to decide if that's your make or break factor here, because he did avoid it. However, he avoids it to what I would consider the good side. He did not run toward the gun. If you watch his approach to this mark, it is not under the arc or toward the gun. It's actually outside the bird, which shows that he's not trying to run toward suction. He's not trying to run toward the bird boy. He's trying to run toward where the bird is. Does that make sense?
It does. Yep.
So hit play right here, and let's see if I caught everything watching it on my phone. See that little bit of shuck right there?
He definitely went around it.
And I mean, that's a small factor in the whole grand scheme of things. Like I said, you could say, "Oh, I want to get there and stop and make him redo it and do it the correct way." But at least he didn't miss it going toward, because if he's going towards the gun, he's also going towards less water, right?
Right. What about the return? Is that appropriate?
Well, I don't think that was inappropriate because he was in the water the whole time, right?
He was.
And again, when you look at it, this is it all changes for him at this point because he knows that everything out there is just splashing. So the avoidance of water is going to go down substantially because he knows that that it's water, but it's not swimming. It's in his mind, it's a whole lot less work. So that you got to understand, there's a difference between a dog making a conscious decision to get in water and knowing that the water is going to be swimming, and a dog that's making a conscious decision to get in water and knowing that it's going to be running water. It's not nearly as big an obstacle in their mind when they can do it faster. Even a lot of times if it's more work because they're having to churn harder, but if they feel like they can do it faster in a more expedited manner, it does not deter them the way it does if it's swimming. Does that make sense?
Yep. And so I'd like to address the question that was posted on Facebook today. Somebody asked if the hand going in before the send is appropriate on a mark or not. And you and I talked about it before we went live, but I'd like to address that since I told that guy I would address it, and they kind of got into a little tussle about it. Imagine that.
So my opinion when it comes to this is hand going in is just fine. It works as a steadying factor when you got a dog like Tanner. That doesn't mean that you have to do it in the blind in order for him to go, but in the training scenario, it really helps him steady. He understands that hand going in is the get set to on your mark, get set, go. So especially on singles or when you don't have a check down bird, if you have it run long and then tried to come back and pick up a short bird, I'm good with the hand going in. What I don't like is moving your hand while it's in. So bouncing your hand, karate chopping them on top of the head, bowling them out there. You don't want them to start going off the movement of your hand. You want them going off your voice. So when you put your hand in and they start accepting your hand being there, the other byproduct that you get is a dog that really starts appreciating your hand being in there and understanding that your hand being there means that they're looking in the right spot, which helps translate to them having a better blind running attitude, especially on their initial lines. So I like the hand going in. I think it's a good thing as long as the only time your hand should move when you send your dog is if he hits it when he's leaving. Let him run out from under your hand and, go on about your business.
So I got a question about the hand. It's on topic based on what we're talking about, but not really about marking. But what's you see some guys at old school, they get down and they line their arm up and they point way out their nose, and then other guys just use a hand or two fingers or an upside down hand or whatever it is. What's the difference? Why do people stretch their arm out when they're about to send a dog versus just bringing a hand down?
That is the difference in British style training and American. The British folks, they send their dogs instead of saying back, they usually say get out, and it's like you're literally saying get out and go that way. So it's just a different stylistic approach, a little bit different way of training. But typically, when you see somebody sending the way that you're talking about, they have a British influence rather than American approach.
Got it. All right. So what we did this next time was I had him throw another bumper further and higher and more arcing, and he threw it into the deeper water. And where the bumper hit is where the X is. Where he picked it up was where the current took the bumper. So
okay, but more importantly, is that can you play till you hit the X?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to throw a high arcing, okay? Heel. Sit. Come on.
Okay, right there. Is there any way possible that you could put a highlight on where the previous mark landed? Can you mark that in there?
I can put the cursor there.
Okay.
So the previous mark was right. Can you see the cursor?
I can see it. Yep.
That's where the previous mark was.
All right. Before we go into it anymore, what Mr. Leonard said, is it accurate in the comments? When he said he uses it as a cue to let the dog know he's looking at the right picture. He only drops it once the dog's locked in and will raise it back up if he looks the other way, which is exactly the same analogy said in a different way that I did, as far as that is the get set of on your mark, get set, go. That you're looking in the right spot. That's saying get ready to go because you're looking in the right spot, and back means go. So when you look at where your cursor is, where your previous mark landed, now watch the line he takes out and tell me why he did it.
Okay. He took the line A because he knew it was going to go around that little puddle. And I don't really know what else to say about it because he went to the mark.
But the first half of the line was identical to the previous mark, and it actually set him up the way that you sequence those marks. It actually set him up to go under the arc on the bird because of the line that he took before. Does that make? Do you understand what I'm saying there? That second bird being thrown farther out and him wanting to perpetuate his line, it actually set him up to run. They weren't far enough apart for him to take a differentiating line. Therefore, he ran under the arc on that bird the first half of it because he was perpetuating the line he took out the first time.
Okay. So what does that mean to me?
It means that
favorite mark.
Well, it means that you got to understand what you did to him and understand it's okay. I mean, he's actually trained to understand to take a differentiating line there. But the fact that he ran the same line out showed that he wasn't trying to get off of that line. So you could have stopped him and recalled him and rethrown. You could have stopped him and handled him to the right and made him push a little farther right just to say, don't run the same line. You don't want it to look like this line's out, don't need to look like this. In that case, they need to look like this. And there's not much, but he needed to take a different line.
I got you. Just like you would if you were doing a tune-up drill.
Well, if you were, and if you think about it, exactly, yes, 100%. That you don't even know what's coming, and you just made a very profound statement.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you want to think of it a different way, if you were shooting your bow at those two different destinations, you're going to have lines that look like that as far as the track line in the air. They're not going to look like this and then end up in two different areas. So I want to see a differentiating line. Now, I love this look. By the way, guys, this is what we kill ducks in up there. I mean, it is that wide, that shallow, and the birds will beat you in the head to get in there. It is amazing. It is amazing. Now, it looks like where your camera is mounted is a higher vantage point than where you ran from. I'm glad you got down there, but I'd have been just as happy if you'd have run from up on the hill a little bit, because it would have made the decision a lot more difficult on Tanner in this scenario.
Well, one of the reasons I did that is because that high spot was too small for, like, I couldn't have gotten in front of the camera. That was the only way I could have done it. And so I instead of being on the back side of that tall grass and that thistle, I went in front of it, not all the way to the front edge of it, but almost to it so he could see. Because I figured if we were behind it, he wouldn't have been able to see the mark anyway. Maybe he would have. I don't know.
Well, it's just a really neat place. Go ahead and hit your play button. Now I want you to tell me what you see in Tanner's work here.
Okay. He don't want to sit in thistle. That's what I think.
I don't blame him for that.
Look at that carp.
Is that what it is that I saw making the wake out there?
Yeah. So there's a little current here too. So the mark is the mark, and where he picks it up, he actually did end up swimming around the corner there to the right because the current pulled the bumper over into the main, into bigger water actually.
Not available.
That's where it bends to the right, correct?
Nope. See that mud? Did you see him hit that mud?
Yep.
It stopped him almost in his tracks. Right there, boom.
So what did you think about his work here?
I thought he did well because he had to navigate 3 points, and he stayed in the water on all 3 of them.
Exactly.
So I thought he did a good job with that.
Well, and if you watch him take off, he didn't take off trying to get to the edge either. And he tried. It looked like he tried to stay in the middle as much as possible, and it didn't equate for the straightest line. However, it did equate to him showing greater effort to stay in the water, and that was what I really liked about that mark is that even if he doesn't go perfectly straight and touch the points, he's actually showing a greater effort to stay in. So I'm all for that. I'm saying good job right there.
I felt like he did on the return too. He stayed in the water.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly right, and that's showing super effort on his part.
Of course, he might have been trying to avoid all that thistle too.
That's usually, dogs are normally going to choose the bank if they're trying. If they've got cheating on their mind, there can be a steel trap up there, and they'll still try to go to the bank if it's if that's what they want. He's a really good example of him trying really hard right there.
Good. You want to keep this or?
Oh
stop?
yes, I definitely want to talk about this one.
Yeah, this is where the wheels came off.
Yeah.
And I made the first mistake, and I know what it is. Can I point it out?
I'll get after it.
Let me play it. So let me just say this too. Let me get it to the X. So the X, what I wanted him to do, my bird boy to do was throw that up in that cover so that he'd stay in the water. I wanted him to cut the point off, cut the tip of that point off, and re-enter on the back side, stay in the water, then have to hunt in that tall cover to find the bird.
Mm-hmm.
So let me just play it. That was what my objective was. Okay. And so I feel like my mistake, and I knew it as soon as I blew the whistle, was he was trying to stay in the water, and I stopped him again, just like I did on that mark, the first series of marks in that we were trying to go through the keyhole, and I did the same thing. I just built a wall right there at that water, and so when I called him back and resent him, it just fell apart because I built a wall right there on that point. Is that right?
No, go ahead. I'll keep teaching. I'm learning.
No.
Forgot to say no first.
It's okay. We'll talk about it. I want to keep playing, and I want to see his response again.
He looped way around the backside on the return.
No word.
I think the bumper slipped out of his hand, so I had him rethrow it because I wanted it to be up in that cover. But
Sit. Get your mark. Come on.
Okay. That's a question. Hold on. You come back to you.
All right.
So when we threw that mark, and then I resat him or rehealed him, I feel like I pulled him off of that mark. Is that an observation that's accurate?
Yeah, and even more so because you'd already pulled him off twice already. It'd probably been better just to move his feet, back him up, or hit the reset button and come back and resend, or rethrow and resend. It wasn't just that you did that. It was what had happened the last two times ahead of it. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. Now stop right there.
This is almost comical.
Back it up just a little bit.
Okay. To where?
Just to where he was sitting right there.
Okay.
That is the point that I wanted to make. That is where I wanted to share my screen with you. And talk about that more. The reason that you struggled here was not you made a questionable decision. You know, you understood that there was no need to browbeat you in that regard. But the reason that you truly struggled here is because of what you picked out to run. And what I mean by that is here. What you undo, please. Okay. What you chose to do, in your mind, that point was a significant factor. Okay. Look at what Tanner sees. And when he broke down that bank and got to that water, he had a choice of go to land or go to water. It wasn't, if you'd have moved farther left, and I know you probably couldn't because of the way that the channel was, but let's just say if that line had looked a lot more like this, it would have been a lot more black and white to him about getting on. You know, truth be told, you do with what you got to do with, but you know, something like that would have been even more clear to him. But my point is, you said I wanted him to get over there and cut that point. And my point is, when he left out, he said that it can get no more gray line wise than what you chose. It can be no more gray than 2 feet in the water and 2 foot on the bank, or even 4 foot on the bank. He took the harder line when he left out, because he came rolling down this edge. Let's see if I can make that thing draw. He came rolling down this edge. What in the world is that? Maybe a marker? He came rolling down this edge, and when he broke the water, he said, no. I can't go there. I've got to come around. And he was going to keep on trucking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the point that I'm making there is if you saw him, it looked like there was a little bit of terrain change or something that made him fall left. And then he was like, oh, no, I got to get around this water. And then you built your wall. Like you said, you recognized, you know, essentially when you stopped him, you built a wall right there. And that made him want to go big time left the next time. You recognized all your faults. You recognized all your issues. You just didn't recognize that the line you picked was gray in the first place. That was the only bad mistake you made. I mean, I know you could talk about the rest of it and that it's laughable, but really the big mistake here was not in your application. It was in your choice and recognition of what good work was and what good effort was. Let's say it that way. You didn't recognize that he was trying extra hard to stay in. You were looking at the line and focusing on the line rather than looking at the effort that he was giving you.
Yeah,
There's got to be a good side to miss on. And not only was he missing around, he was missing to the outside of the bird. He wasn't going at the bird boy again. You know, I'd have been much more concerned if he'd have cut that point. If his line had looked more like, I have no idea what I'm doing on this brushes thing, guys. Give me a second and see if I can figure this out. There we go. If his line had looked like this, I'd have been much more concerned than the line that he gave out. Had he just boogieed over there and got on that point and ran down the left edge and then crossed over, that would have been, that is the line that you don't want to see. The line that indicates the dog avoiding water.
After I built that wall, that's what he was going to do.
Yeah, and it wouldn't have taken much to break down that wall. It was more, you caught him after he made that decision to go around than anything else. So, like I said, this was not a bad mark. You just didn't recognize that he was trying.
Exactly.
No. Over.
Yeah, at that point, you should have just backed it up and started all over again.
Fell apart.
The wheels definitely came off the apple cart.
So when they're in cover like that, I mean, my thought was to just let him hunt because he stayed in the general area.
Yeah, you got to let them work it out. I mean, they're not going to step on every bird, and they need to be comfortable getting to the area to fall and then establishing a hunt.
So he was going to run
Over.
He was going to run the bank all the way.
That wasn't bad work to end it on. All that went bad because of your initial decision, not his.
Right.
Sit. Good.
That's it.
Super. All right, I'm going to get rid of this picture and bring up what we're going to talk about tonight. Remove this. So that's so ironic that you said
I don't think
it's
I've
like
been.
a pin-up drill, because that is,
What is that?
I just.
what was that?
Here.
Oh, no. That's my Ramsey Russell video. Hang on. That would be entertaining. Okay.
All right, I'm trying to
Could
pull
you
up the
hear
next one.
Did you hear that playing?
Come back?
Could you hear that video playing?
Yeah, it was coming through
Okay.
loud and clear. All right, go up here. Miss Elaine, my oversized icon cursor is giving me problems, but I'm doing it for you.
Mr. Leonard, I think that's a really good point. I mean, I can only speak for myself, and it's been so helpful for me. Like, if we just sat here and talked about scenarios and we talked about describing them and there was a diagram, but there's no video with the mistakes, then I would know half of what I kind of know now, because watching your own mistakes is like looking in the mirror and you know, and admitting to yourself that you're making mistakes, and then having someone show you how to correct those mistakes. I just can't think of a better way to learn than that.
Well, and you know, Kendra used to videotape a lot of my runs when I was, you know, running tests, and folks thought that she was doing it for our clients, so our clients could see our dogs run. And she's like, "Oh, how sweet of y'all," blah blah blah. And I was like, "She ain't doing that for them. She's doing that for me because." Get better, and that was part of how I was going about what I was doing, was to watch myself and see what mistakes I was making and rectify them. So everybody thought she was doing it for our clients to see it, and I was just doing it for no other reason than to just get it right, you know, for me.
Right.
Trying to see if I
mean, I'm thinking about starting to videotape all my employees.
Oh wow. What a great thought.
Yeah.
All right, I gotta
Here's
had
what
to cover up that.
You put that money in your pocket. You didn't charge that guy for that beer.
All right. Now, so we talked about what you did on your videos. Now, what I want to talk about is how we can evaluate Tanner's effort, how we can recognize right and wrong, and understand what he's thinking, how he's going about his work. So we got our rectangular pond. We did a lot of talking about down the shore blinds here. We did a lot of talking about tune-up drills on this pond, so on and so forth. So what I want you to get towards here in the next week or so is a more regimented approach to marking, a more systematic approach to marking, where you're not just throwing marks for the sake of watching and pick up a mark. You're throwing marks that you have a true belief in what's going to happen, and a true expectation of what's going to happen, and then hold him to the standard that you're looking for in the work. So, for instance, a great little marking drill that you could do on this pond is you could be down on a corner. Guys, remember, this is a on X picture, so it's showing a lot of like algae growth on the edge, but most of this is swimming water. But a really good approach. Ooh, back that up. Don't do that. In this scenario is throwing a mark. You don't have to be super far off the water either. You kind of don't want to be too far off the edge to start with, but throw in a mark where he's got to go across the pond and go pick it up and come back. Now, which way, if the bottom corner is the line, which way do you want to throw this bird?
Right to left.
Right to left. Throw him into the pond. Mm-hmm. Now, if you throw this mark and he's on the right of the line, is he on the more water side or the less water side?
If he's on the less water side. If he's on the right,
is he outside the bird or is he inside the bird? As far as the direction of throw,
inside the bird.
So he needs to be either on line, and if he's missing, he needs to be on what side?
On the good side, on the left side.
Exactly. We want to see him strive to be on the watery side. We want to see him not go at the bird boy, and we want to see him choose water over land.
I'm so glad we're doing this right now. I can see where this is going, and this is exactly what I need right here.
So it does not get any more basic when it comes to basic marking drills than walking singles. And what walking singles are is you throw the bird boy throws a mark, the dog goes and picks the mark up, then the bird boy walks to where the bird fell and throws another mark. And by walking to where the bird fell, or even just a little bit farther past it, he's covering up where the bird's been before, and ideally taking away that location and that line from that dog. Don't go back to where you've been before. Go somewhere else, and I'm going to cover up so that you don't run to where you've been before. So if your bird boy walks to where the bird landed and then throws another good throw, it's going to look something like this, right? Then the same principles apply. If the dog is under the arc, he's in less water. If the dog is under the arc, he's running toward the gun. And I want to see him pick a line that is on this plane or left of it, not perpetuating that line that he took out the first time. Because if he perpetuates the line he took out the first time, he's running at the gun. There's something that we can hold him accountable for. If he's perpetuating that same line, he's taking less water. That's something that we can hold him accountable for. Does that make sense about the first marking session that we talked about?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if he goes under the arc or on the bad side of the line, I stop him and call him back.
That is one option.
Okay.
That is exactly right. That is one option. So you can stop and call back. You can stop and handle. But if you stop and handle, oops, go back to red. And then we're going to go back to this. And then we're going to go to big line. Let's say that he takes this line out. You can stop right here and build a wall and recall. You can stop right here and handle. But the mistake most people make is if they stop and handle, they handle to here. But the dog was bent to the right of the line. So if they handle, they need to handle to here to bend him the other way. Remember we talked about the piece of rebar and how you got to bend their mind? You can't just handle them to straight. You got to handle them to pass straight to say, if you want to take less water, I'm going to make you take more. Does that sound familiar? Almost like swim by.
I understand that now.
But it's not swim by here because there's not a bumper in their mouth. But it is the same concept. If you want to take less, I'm going to make you take more. Now, this is one of the things.
Is it a no and an over?
No, it's not a no and an. It's not a no and an over in the way that you're thinking. No, it's not a no and an over. It's no and back. If you want to say, you can say no in the context of saying that you need to take more water, but it's not an over here. You're going to cast with a directional back, and this is the tricky part. We've talked about this before, and it's going to sound really foreign, but I'm going to go ahead and really shove it down your throat. The mistake people make here when they stop the dog at the first part, when they stop them at the less water spot, is they give this giant cast trying to get the dog to come over here, where I want to see less angle giving with a greater response. I would rather you give a straight up cast and the dog give that than you to give this to get. You remember we talked about the varying angles? So I don't want you giving huge angle casts here. I want you forcing the dog to take more water by stopping and not allowing the dog to make progress until it chooses more water. If you give that cast and he digs back on you, stop, cast again. Don't let him gain momentum toward the bird until he gives you the cast that you're looking for.
So do you whistle him back and then stop him again?
Yep.
Okay. You bring him right back to where he made the mistake.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So
I recall this lesson.
Yeah, it's all starting to make sense now, right? So you keep working with him until he gets outside the bird. So when he's doing the right thing, he's either going to be dead on line or he's going to be doing something that looks like this to get to the bird. He's going to be trying to get outside of it to do the right thing. When I see a dog starting to do this, that means that I am realizing that they are starting to understand what I'm looking for.
So knowing Tanner and knowing me, if I did a no callback, resend,
he's going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. But so I would challenge myself to try to handle him over, because I feel like that's where I would flail.
Yeah, I don't disagree one bit. Not at all. Not at all. So obviously you see where I'm headed here, that your next line is going to be the exact same thing again. And it's going to look something like, undo that. Kylie, why are you doing that? I don't know why it keeps doing that. There we go. Your next one's going to look like this. Your next one's going to look like, see, I don't know why it keeps catching there.
Boy, does that look familiar.
Exactly. 100%. That you are definitely seeing how infinitely boring.
Oh, this is about building blocks.
This is how boring this thing can be, but how this puts everything into perspective. And remember, as you're building this drill, there's a difference between a dog that's running. You know, you're taking a little bit of an increasing amount of water here. If he's running down, if he starts to gain momentum and starts doing something, oops, go back to red, change to this, go back to yellow. If he starts doing something that looks like this, that's not good either. You want to see the dog that wants to get in the water. So when they start to go to those varying lines, a lot of times when I'm doing a drill like this, if I'm not too close to the edge, you'll see the dogs do something like this because they're trying to get in. They're trying to be good.
It's possible. Oh, they're trying.
Yeah, they're trying to get to the water quicker. And a lot of times I'll let them do that because I want to see where it's going to take them.
I could see Tanner going straight line to the water on the mark, but then doing something different in the water.
And see what you'll see more often from what I've seen him doing, you know, in our evaluations, you're actually going to see him make better decisions once he's in the water than getting to the water. I've seen him make more mistakes with you getting there, you know, getting there than once he is in the water itself.
Mm-hmm. So, Mr. Bobby Bridges asked a question on marks, walking marks like this, or any marks. Do you consider the wind or not?
Absolutely. So, it depends on how much challenge you want. Ideally, the wind's at your back, so it has, you know, they're not using their nose to try to find the bird. When they start getting good at this, you can start doing cross-directional wind. So if you've got a wind that's going right to left here, the dog is going to actually be pushed to more water, and it's actually going to help them make a bigger decision. And if they do beach early, the wind's not going to give it to them. I really like doing it with that wind right to left when they start figuring things out, because when they stay in the water long enough, then they wind it, and then it pulls them out of the water. And I like that, seeing that reward. If you've got a left to right wind, the dog has to fight to stay in the water more, and that is an admirable thing. The only thing I don't like about a left to right wind is they get rewarded if they beach early because they wind it.
Yeah, that sounds complicated for me.
So wind at your back is a good start. Wind at going right to left is a good wrinkle. Wind left to right is the hardest that you're going to get here, and when you really have to gain the greatest level of understanding. So at your back, right to left, then left to right would be a lot of the approach that I'm looking for here. Now, again, do you not? I mean, how similar does this look to the handling drills that we did? And the great thing about that is when you start putting them with marks and they start getting those similar corrections, they put it together a lot easier. They get bent a lot quicker because they figure out, oh my gosh, I've been here before. This is the same but different. And this, how many times my clients just said, "Oh my gosh, here he goes again, preaching on the same but different." But it's really what it is. It is the same principle. It's the same concept. We're just putting it now in relation to marks instead of just blinds. And if you've laid that foundation with their initial blind work, it makes this marking drill a lot easier to comprehend. Now, the greater the distance, the greater the suction that you've got to deal with. But this is a perfect little pond to start a drill like this. And I don't want you to get too big, because I want you to look for the little behaviors, not the great big things. I want you to look for the little decisions that he's making in this process, and see if he's really putting it together. And look, when he makes a mistake, how much different his response is.
So I had a question very similar to Hagen's. Hang on one second. Hey, Walker, can you put your headset on, please? Because we can't hear.
I don't know how to turn it on.
So can you guys hear the TV? Is that distracting?
It's just a little bit.
Okay. Let me ask this question and then give me a second. So, hey, will you grab the headset, Walker?
I don't know how to turn it on.
Bring it to me. I'll turn it on for you. So as you move towards the left shoreline, you're still, I mean, even though the water's to the right after you split that pond in half, basically, the good side is still to the left, right?
Yeah, and that's why I said it's not, you don't want to be too far away from the water to start with. If it gets kind of blurry, just move down closer to the edge. On the longer swims, move closer to the edge so they have a more black and white decision making.
Gotcha.
And that's going to lead us into to the next wrinkle of this. But I wanted to show you how, just cut and dry and easy that this can be. If you can move closer to the edge, or you can move a little bit to the right and make it more of a diagonal straight across the pond. It's as easy as changing your line to the Onyx makes it just, there's something about how, there we go. It's as easy as changing your line to right there.
Oh,
That's not what I'm looking for as far as where I want to start it, but I guess I can start down here.
I see what you're saying.
Yes, something about this different map makes it harder to sketch them. There we go. There we go. See, if you just change your line to right there, it makes it so much easier.
Yeah, I got it. Does that answer your question, Hagen? Hopefully so.
As you get closer to the left corner, will the dog's line be more to the right of the red line? Because it would only be right at the very start, and then they're gonna push back left to stay in if they're really trying hard. By the way, Bobby Bridges got 6th place at the SRS this weekend, so congratulations, Bobby. That was a big accomplishment.
Congratulations.
If you lose to Jerry Day, you are in great company, because he has beat just about everybody in the country at some point in time. What a gift! What a gift that when you're 81 years old and you can make everybody around you feel young. He is a true gem of a human being.
That's pretty cool.
So, I should have asked, did you have questions on that before?
I feel like that's a good one for me to start on this week. I do have to go to South Carolina to a Bassmaster Open. I have to leave. What is today? Tuesday. I have to leave Thursday, and I'll be back. I think I'll be back Sunday. So I'll have Monday to do this if I can find me a bird boy.
Now, see, if you could just put off your flight for another day or two, you could just zip down to the house and we could train for a couple of days.
Yeah, I'd have to bring Tanner with me.
That would be so cool.
I'm going to do that at some point this off season. I'm going to do that.
All right. So my point on systematic approach, that stepwise, and come in and see the dog's decision making, putting everything together, understanding. Somebody asked the other day about how do you bend those lines. This is exactly how I start bending lines. And it's not just that I come out here and initially start this on a marking drill. Y'all have seen how many steps that we've taken. You know, tune-up drills are the first water blinds that I run with dogs. You know, I'm starting to bend them at that point in time. So the next step up, which is not, you know, a huge step, but it makes some things easier, some things harder, is doing what's called a walking tune-up. So same exact marking concept. It's just you're moving your line as you go. So if your first mark, if your first mark is mark 1, like normal, my gracious, I'll get it, I promise. Stop catching it. There we go. If your first mark is this mark, and it's thrown right to left, what you would do in a walking tune-up drill is you move your line. So let's just say that is, I'm going to give you another one that's going to throw you a wrinkle. Let's say that's not mark 1. What if this, don't catch that spot, little thing. Come on. Come on. Come to me. What if this is mark 1, where you're up here, your bird boy's here, and it's thrown right to left again? That's mark 1. This is mark 2. Then you keep moving around, and your bird boy keeps moving around, and this is mark 3. See how what we're doing here is we're crisscrossing the lines. We're having different points of entry and exit. And so, for instance, when Tanner runs mark 1 and has to cut this corner, if he's under the arc, you know he's being bad. You know he's not trying. But when he comes to mark 2, he's got to swim by where he got out on mark 1. And when he goes to mark 3, he's got to get in where he got out, then swim by where he got out, and then keep going. And so your next mark thrown over here. It don't like popping the line right there, I tell you what. So your next mark you could throw from the same spot, or you could move farther this way. You know, you could run your same mark from there, or you could move down here. Or you could send the guy to the end of the pond and run your big down the shorebird. All you're doing in the walking tune-up drill is you're moving your line, your bird boy is moving as well, and you're starting to cross lines where they were so neat and pretty, where they look like your fingers before. Now they're starting to get jumbled, and they have to start making decisions about, well, I got out there before. Do I get out now or do I stay in? It just starts adding a little bit of gray, and it starts really setting you up for decision-making on your dog's part. It looks a lot messier because it is a lot messier. And there's a lot of, well, I was here before. Do I get out now or do I stay in? As opposed to on your previous drill, the dog was always just having to push off where it had been before.
So, I mean, your objective as a trainer there is to train your dog. I'm asking, I'm not stating, I'm asking, is forget about all that other stuff. Let's just focus on the mark.
Exactly. And not just forget about all that other stuff. No, embrace that you were there, but don't do it again.
I got you.
So it's not necessarily forget about it all.
Don't go there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Makes a lot of sense.
And these little tiny marks, and I say tiny, you know, I was doing a drill very similar to this years ago, and I had another trainer coming and visiting, and we were running to a point, and there was big water on the backside of the point. There was a big swim. You could do the same exact stuff. Instead of stopping on the point, you could have gone over the point and swam another, 7,500 yards on each mark. And he said, man, this is so small. He said, I'd be throwing these exact same marks as re-entries, going over the point, swimming on the big swim behind it. He said, why aren't you doing that? I said, well, how good are your dogs doing on my marks? He said, well, they're not doing good at all. I said, well, we don't need to talk about what happens on the backside of the point until they can do it right on the front side. And that was, you know, he totally agreed at that point. He said, you know, 100% that he said, you're absolutely right. Mr. Leonard said, would you try this with standalone marks when you are by yourself? So my question to you, Mr. Leonard, would be, what do you do? Are you familiar with what standalone marks are, Jake?
I'm not. I was just going to ask, what is a standalone mark?
That's where you leave the dog sitting at a place and you go out and be your own bird boy.
Mm-hmm.
So my question there is, what do you do if the dog doesn't do the right thing? What do you do if you have to bend your dog? So if you're your bird boy, you can't handle. And if you're going to try it a different way and you're going to throw, and then you're going to go all the way back to the line and then send the dog, that's a lot of time that has gone by. That would be exceptionally difficult. The only compromise you could do there is if you had a little mogul stick man, you know, and so, well, I don't have a guy that I don't have a mannequin. I don't have this, that, and other. You can take a Purina Pro Plan bag and turn it inside out and put it on an electric fence post stake and make it look like a stick man. And all you're doing is leaving a reference point for where the gun was and then throwing from there. You see, when Mr. Leonard says I would throw a second mark if the dog's bending, then at that point, you're not bending the dog mentally or purposefully. All you're doing is altering his line out by throwing another mark and trying to help him. He's not understanding the rules of the game and that he has to bend out there on his own. You know, he just feels like he's swimming a little bit more because you're throwing a bigger throw. So the only way that I'd be okay with a standalone mark is if, you know, if you had a four-wheeler, you know, and you could throw your bird and then you could zip back around to the line and then send the dog with a bird boy as a reference point and then handle the bigger water when they violate the line. That point being said, you're handling here not to the mark, you're handling to the line, or in this case, to the greater side of the line. That doesn't mean that you handle them all the way to the bird. You're just continually pushing them to more water at the beginning of this. You want to see them, and you're going to see Tanner. When he gets corrected, he's going to go, uh-oh, and you'll see him just immediately choose bigger water. But it's going to give you a greater recognition of understanding what he understands, what the rules of marking are, and what he's got to do in order to make things right in his mind. Mm-hmm. So this is the drill that I want to see you do. This is the approach that I want to see you have, and I want you to see Tanner make the right decision after he gets corrected. And if he does it perfect the first time, make it harder, make it more gray. Back off the water some, see if that doesn't change it. But, you know, make that first mark really skinny. All these little things that we can do to set the dog up to make a little bit more difficult decision. But you can't understand what good work looks like until you understand what the rules are and understand what he's trying to do to follow the rules. I go back to that last mark that we did where he tried to run around that point and you stopped him and tried to fix it. He was doing everything he could to be a good boy right there, and you just didn't recognize it.
That's right. So I have remember the old
quad throw. You froze on me right there, Jake. The last thing I heard you say was remember. So start over.
I have it's been about 10 or 12 years since I bought them, but I have those little.
You just got choppy on me again. You said you have.
I have the little bumper launchers, but I'm scared to shoot them off in my neighborhood because I'm afraid somebody's going to call the cops on me because they take a charge.
Mm-hmm.
But that would solve a lot of my bird boy problems, or maybe I just need to go find a bird boy on Facebook or something.
Well, somebody else. Usually, the best way to find a bird boy is to find somebody else that's got a retriever and do a little symbiotic help. And I'm sure that there's somebody that may even be watching this, that, you know, that's not far away, that would love to get involved.
I've actually had a couple people contact me, you know, from between here and Denver that wanted to train together. So yeah, that's a great idea. I need some new friends anyway.
Don't we all? Don't we all? But like I said, I love the video that you had. I love the march that you were picking, but I want to see you go back to basics. I want to see you get a little bit more elemental on this approach. You going to bed, sweetheart?
Mm-hmm.
Night.
I want to see you get a little bit more elemental and look more at the basic response, and really get down to what Tanner's approach to water is, and it's going to help you gain a huge understanding. Now, we talked about this on this one pond. I hope that the lights are going off on you in your little head about all the other spots that you have that you can do similar work like this, and really get some good basic tools in place. And what I want to see at the end of this is I want to see Tanner making the right decision toward water the first time, not running to try to run around once and then getting recalled, and then y'all's training actually started. Y'all's training actually getting started. Does that make sense?
It does. I get that.
So let's pick out some spots. Let's do some tune-up drill style marks, and let's check out Tanner's behavior.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time once again, Stephen. Everybody else, sorry. I don't know. We thought we were on time and we weren't. And sorry about that, but maybe next time we'll have this thing dialed in.
Well, this has been, you know, I know this is a little bit brief, but the great part about this is you have a foundation to go off here. You know, we've got a whole lot of good established through all the handling work in general. And I want to, you know, I want to see y'all set up something difficult. I want to see y'all struggle, but I don't want 200-yard marks. I want to see him make the right decision around these shorter swims, and then we can compound them on some bigger marks.
Got it. Well, thanks again. Another episode of the Retriever Connection down, and moving on to the next. I really appreciate everybody showing up. Stephen, these are so valuable to me, and you know, like I always say, I wish it weren't dark, so I'd like to go out there and just start running marks right now. So, well, thanks everybody.
Thank goodness we're getting a little bit shorter days, because it sure has been beautiful weather. I mean, it's not that I dislike summertime by any means. I was ready to see a little bit of a cool breeze.
No doubt. And I'm really, you know, we're getting that much closer to hunting season where these videos are going to turn into the real deal, like game day, showing up scenarios. And I'm really looking forward to that, and looking forward to, you know, diagramming these things out and talking about what I do wrong and what I do right, what I've learned through the entire summer now. And just think we did all this because of COVID. So something good came out of that.
Well, and one thing that to speak about hunting that I'm sure that you have forgotten, don't forget to get that loud behind duck call out and really satiate Tanner with hearing that, so he can work a little bit on that whining, on those loud cut downs that you like to blow so much.
Yeah, no doubt. That's time. Yeah. All right, guys. See y'all next week. And thanks again. And we'll catch up with you next time.
Super. Appreciate it, guys. See you all.